APR, Voices from the Field. Meet a certified speech-language pathologist, or SLP. What is your role and where do you work?
I'm a speech-language pathologist in the school district of Lancaster, which is in Lancaster City. I am the lead speech therapist here. We have about, 27 SLPs in our district. So I do a little bit of everything in a sense of supporting my department and also working with my own caseload.
What led you to a career as a school-based speech-language pathologist, or SLP?
Well, to be honest, I started my career in the medical side. When we were in grad school, I fell in love with neurology, anatomy, physiology, all the adult classes. So for the first part of my career, I was in the medical setting. I worked in a trauma hospital. I did acute care. I worked in a rehab hospital with adults and primarily with the swallowing disorders, and then also traumatic brain injury, head and neck cancer, and strokes. And that was awesome. And I do love that. And I love that at any point in my career, I could go back to that if I wanted to. That's what's unique about us as SLPs. I didn't like having to work 7 days a week because of the hospital being stroke certified. I didn't like working every holiday because hospitals never closed down. I didn't like, having only 2 weeks off a year. And so that teacher schedule that comes along with working in the schools was very enticing. I'm just going to be real. It comes down to pay and your time, right? So when you get hired in a hospital, you tend to start off at a higher salary, but they don't have the same growth over the long run. So I'm almost making double what I started at in a hospital here now in the schools. And that's not the compensation that you get when you work in a hospital that's for profit, where when you work for a district that has a union and a set salary schedule and advancement because of your education. I really missed working with kids. And so this kind of just was everything for me. So while I love the time that I had in the medical side of things, I probably still glow in the dark from all the video swallow studies that I did over the years. I will never go back full time.
What kind of work do you do as a school-based SLP?
I think that we don't just do S's and R's. People think of speech therapy and they only think about the way a student says words or says sounds. And it's so much more than that. Like we do work on speech sound production. Like I said, there's some kids that come in who they have so many challenges that you can't understand anything that they're saying. So unlocking that and giving them their voice is awesome. But also thinking about that language piece of like the speech language pathologist, working on receptive and expressive language, pragmatic language, also thinking about cognitive communication disorders. A child may have typically developing communication skills, but then they got into a car accident or had some other type of trauma, and then you're figuring out how to support them that way. Also, kids who are nonverbal and getting them on devices or helping them speak in alternative ways is amazing. But we have a huge part in education because if oral language is the bridge to literacy. So we have to really help our kids with communication skills in the early years. Otherwise, it's really going to affect their ability to understand with reading, comprehension, writing, and all things like that. So I feel like we have this critical role in schools that people have no idea. Like it blows people's minds once you go through all the different ways we support our kids here.
What is rewarding about the work you do?
It's then beautiful to see these kids come in later dancing around because they met a goal, or participating in the school play, or all these other things that I know I had a huge part in helping them to show who they really were. For kids to come and know that this is the hardest thing for me right now. People don't appreciate communication until they lose it or they don't have it. And so for these kids to come in and be so aware that I'm coming to see you for the hardest thing that I have to work on, but I create a place where they want to continue to come. They make growth. They trust me. They know I'm going to push them, but that it's okay to make mistakes along the way. And then to see their growth Sometimes I play recordings for them. Hey, look at how you used to be. Look at where you are now. And they're so proud of themselves.
What advice do you have for someone considering a career as an SLP?
If you can get into like a 5-year program where you can go right through bachelor's, right into the master's program, I would suggest that. And that's the one thing that I think is so awesome is that part of having our national license is having a requirement for continuing education. And because we work on so many areas of communication and how complex they can be, we have to continuously be a learner.
Interested in learning more? Visit us today at tinyurl.com/Pennsylvania APR.